In the United States, we use the Electoral College to determine who's going to become the next president of the United States. In 2016, we may see just how bad of a system we have in place. So, Hillary Clinton may become the Democratic nominee. It's likely that Donald Trump becomes the Republican nominee. Gary Johnson is going to be or he already is the nominee of the Libertarian Party. It's probably likely that Jill Stein attains the nominee for the Green Party. Mm-hmm. And it's still possible that Bernie Sanders will run independent. So that would mean 5 candidates running for president of the United States.
But will all 5 of those candidates have the same, ground to stand on in regards to how much, airtime they have?
That's true. I mean, it would likely, of course, the networks, the corporate media outlets, they would probably only give the Democratic Party and the Republican parties any kind of attention. So if it's Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, it's only going to be them two in debates, and they're only going to really be talking about them. Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, and Gary Johnson, they're going to get a small fraction of the coverage, right? But still, at this point, a lot of people know those candidates, though.
And so
they will get a lot of votes.
Honestly, if Bernie Sanders runs on an independent ticket, there is so much support behind him, and there's people who actually want to see him. I don't see how they can kind of like push him to the side. It would be hard to do that, especially this election.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Gary Johnson he's polled better as far as percentage wise than Jill Stein.
Yes. He's actually
not to say I agree.
But he's actually. I think one poll I saw him at like about 11%.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean that's a lot larger than a typical a third party candidate.
I think Jill Stein's like at 3 or 4 or something like that.
So that's significant. But okay, so this is how bad the electoral system is. So in a race like that, when you have 5 candidates, or even if Bernie Sanders doesn't run and it's just the 4, when you have major candidates, when it's not just a 2-party system, that means the likelihood of reaching that magical number to attain the presidency, 270, it's likely that nobody could hit that number.
Yeah.
Because the votes would be so split, states over here, states over there, people getting different states, right? So in a case like that where nobody gets to 270, it falls to the House of Representatives to decide who becomes the president. They hold an immediate session and they vote on who's going to become the next president. Now, we know in 2016, the House is controlled by the Republican Party, so it would be the Republican Party that determines.
Who do you think they choose? Hillary Clinton? No.
But you know what? I'm not even sure if they have to even choose between the candidates. I'm not even sure about that.
You mean they can like just there can be like one introduced last minute, like Mitt Romney or Joe Biden?
Maybe. I'm not even sure.
I gotta look into that.
Yeah, but see the Electoral College, I think, and I pretty much know. I mean, it makes no sense that the Electoral College was set up for multiple parties and multiple candidates, like democracy. It was set up for a 2-party system. Because that way, you're sure that somebody's going to hit 270,
all the time.
Yeah.
That way you can pretty much consolidate the corruption. You can consolidate like the pathway we always take. You know what I'm saying? It always like stays solvent.
That's right. And see, think about the players that are involved, the media, the corporations,
who are all kind of owned by the same people.
Yes. And we've said before, I mean, the media outlets, these corporate outlets, prop up these main 2 parties, the Republican and Democratic parties. You think they're just doing that because they think that they hold the best politicians that we have in the country? No. It's by design. They're all connected. That's the way they continue this horrible system for everybody else that doesn't have a voice.
Like, I got into a little, argument with a friend of mine who was a Hillary Clinton supporter, and I was trying to talk to them about, establishment politics, and her kind of point of view was that having this two-party system is actually good because, let's say, Democrats, for example, she said, it's an umbrella over so many people, so it gives a voice to a lot of people because the umbrella covers so many people. And I would contend that it actually has a better potential of drowning people out.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe that too. Because if you want to think about it like this, it's actually like a monopoly we have in politics. And I say that because the left wing, if you want to, separate them out into wings, left wing, right wing. Anybody that has left wing, ideologies, if it's on abortion or taxes or
social,
climate change, war, just, there's a whole host of issues where you can find different people on the left thinking that you wouldn't find them on the right, right? So you have one major party that is speaking for all of these people. One major party. It's a monopoly. It's a monopoly on people with that kind of ideology. Same thing on the right. Same thing. So you have two parties. One for this line of thinking, one for this line of thinking. It's a monopoly.
But essentially they're owned by the same people.
They are owned by the same people.
So you have maybe the two constituencies debating on different issues, but yet when legislation passed, it has, I guess, the interest of a small minority of people in mind. So it's almost like, what if you found out like the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors were owned by the same people? Would the outcome of the NBA Finals even matter?
Yeah,
it would matter. It would only matter to the fanatics, the fans.
Yes.
It would only matter to
and the people that don't pay attention.
The people that don't pay attention. It would only matter to the people who have chosen to jump on the bandwagon for that sport and to think that, hey, this is a game, and like
to feel some false sense of allegiance.
Not just allegiance, but they're actually participating in this process called the playoffs, called the finals, called basketball. So essentially, if the owners are the same, then, I guess the strings that are attached to these two parties essentially are the same. So, is essentially these issues we talk about inconsequential? Are they?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't monopolies frowned upon in America?
Exactly. But so how come they exist in our political system?
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because
does it make sense?
Yeah, we keep going back and forth about this.
It
makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. It makes sense. I guess you're talking about the relationship between politicians and corporations.
Right.
That relationship remaining solvent.
Yes. It doesn't make sense.
It makes sense for that. It makes sense for that.
In a true democracy, it doesn't make sense.
No.
But if you want to, I guess, abuse... No, I can't say abuse the system. If you want to...
create a system that benefits a certain group of people.
Right. And
a small minority of people.
Yeah, and disenfranchises the majority. Then it makes total sense.
It works.
Yes.
It works.
We need a new system. There could be a two-tier system where, like awarding the Heisman Trophy, their first place votes, second place votes. We can do a system like that. That makes total sense. We can do just the total vote, who has more votes, just,
Well, see, I don't disagree with that. Because right about now, essentially the people who have the most influence are party insiders.
Yeah, I know. And they won't agree to a system like this because it's bad for them.
It's bad for them. Because why? Because, their power is going to come into question.
But see, think about how much sense this makes. Now, you could say it makes sense in primary season to have different primaries, state primaries. Okay, all right. But when you're talking about, okay, now it's time for a national election. The general election, we're trying to pick a president for the entire country, right? Why is it split into states?
I mean,
because it's not like I'm electing a state. I mean, a state president.
True.
You know?
But
we're electing a country's president. So why not have all the votes tallied up, and whoever gets more?
Because there's, a different population count in each state. So obviously it's based on representation. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's the problem. I don't think that's the problem as far as like how many electoral votes one gets based on the state they win. It's just the system is essentially corrupt. And that's the problem.
That is the problem.
If it wasn't corrupt, I don't think it would be that much of an issue.
The system we have cannot, I guess it cannot lead to multiple major parties. It can't, because like I said, it would be that much harder for a candidate to get to 270. So, these people that are like, well, look, you don't like the way the Democrats do their thing, be an independent, and support, start a new party. Really? Is that really what you're saying? Because you can't really do... If there's three major parties, if there were just three major parties, it would still be hard to get to 270.
It would be hard to get to 270.
You'd have to be dominant over those other two.
You would have to essentially reevaluate the system and change the rules. If they actually gave a third party legitimate shot, you would have to change the rules.
You would have
to. The fact that they're not even looking to change the rules tells me that they don't want to give any other parties a legitimate shot.
Exactly.